Well, welcome everyone. This is our fourth project slash module. And this one, we're going to actually start getting into CSS. So I'm going to do a little bit of a review of that. So some of the things you're going to learn in this module here is to create and link an external CSS file. And you can actually put CSS rules that affect only the file that you're working on. You can create ID selectors, which we're actually going to do in one step. We're going to create a layout with HTML elements and CSS selectors. We're going to use the float property to control nested elements. We're going to use margins and padding so you can see that. To understand margins and padding, you really want to make sure that you fully understand the box model. There's a whole tutorial on what that entails. So we're going to do properties for the body tag. We're going to create a template file. We're going to create figure tags to contain images and captions. We're going to define some HTML selectors, some tag selectors, compound tag selectors, and a pseudo class selector. So buckle up your seatbelts because there's going to be a lot in this chapter. What I do want to do is just a brief review of CSS, which is actually from page 161. So I'm just going to be highlighting some of the key points. So make sure that you review that very well. So the book defines a cascading style sheet as a collection of formatting rules that controls the appearance of the different elements of the web page. And we talked about that with the word example of the several different files and how you can use something you saw in the last tutorial that we did where you can modify and format several elements all at one time. And so basically the CSS consists of rules and selectors and attributes, which you'll learn more about as we go along in the chapter. And you can talk about font size, you can talk about font weight, we can talk about font color, which is actually text color, and talk about how to link a CSS file to an external one. Basically, that's really very easy. We're going to use the link feature, not the import feature. The external style sheet, of course, is one that is not direct inside of the file that you're working on. So these are the key points on page 161. So we're going to get to work right now. I'm actually starting on a new site. I have not prepared the site yet because there's something that I want to do when I set up the new site. So let's go and click on Site and New. Now remember, look at the video on how to set up this particular site on the GoBarry site. I'm doing this local as I've explained before. So it's going to be a little bit different than what you do. So we're going to talk about museum here. So now remember, the site definition can be whatever you want in terms of capitalized letters. We talked about making sure that you only use lowercase letters when you're doing your file names. And you can use either a hyphen or an underscore. Just be consistent in here. So now we need to find the directory that it's going to go into. So make sure that you're working in the correct directory. These are all the different things that I have. So these are the videos that I do. And I have a directory already. You can click on New Folder to create one if you don't have one. And I've already copied the files over. So that's why I have an images folder in here. And we have a conflict, which makes sense because that's what I named the other one. So let me name this V04 Museum. That will take care of it. And this is what I need for you to understand. Make sure you have a default images folder. That's vital because if you import something from outside of your site, it will automatically place it in the image folders. And make sure it's relative to the document. So we're going to click on the museum. We're going to click on images. And boom. That takes care of this. And we'll do cloaking later on. We talked about cloaking in here. So let's just click on cloak right over here so we don't get any of these files in here. Everything else we can leave as is. So that takes care of it. Now, that is everything that is in setting up the site. We're going to make a modification to the CSS file that the book does not tell you about, but it's something that is vitally important. So on number 5 on, number 5 is we're going to create a new file. We're going to do HTML. Now, remember to always name your document title. If you do it here when you're creating a new file, then you don't need to worry about it. So I'm just going to call it design. Maybe I'll make it museum design. This has nothing to do with the file name. Just remember that. That's just a title. Click on create. Now you can see we have a title in here, so you can change it here. You can change it down here. So we're going to click on, when you don't have it saved, if it's just untitled, if you click on here, it's the same thing as clicking on file save. So I'm going to do it here, and we're going to call this design. Now notice all of the other ones have a hyphen in there. So make sure that anything else, if you start off with hyphen, you use a hyphen. That way you never have to wonder, well, did I use an underscore or did I use a hyphen? So I just finished number 5. So we're going to open up the CSS panel and we're going to add a new CSS file. That's number 6 we're going to start. I'll click on CSS Designer here. Notice that we have no sources, we have no media, we have no anything. So in the sources, I'm going to click on add. Now there is no add, it's just a plus sign. And we have a choice of create a new CSS file, attach an existing one, or define in a page. We've already attached an existing one, so let's create a new file. And here's what I want you to do. Where you're going to click on browse, we're going to create a new folder. And you could also do it inside of files. So we're going to do CSS. And then we're going to name the file as museum styles. It's not a good idea to just name your CSS file styles, because you might have several of them and get confused. So we're going to click on save. And we're going to click on OK. Now notice the link is chosen. If you choose import, then what it'll do, if you have several different files using the same CSS file and you choose import, it just puts a copy of that in every one instead of just referencing the file. So it's always better to use link. Let's click on link and boom. Now we have the link. href is the CSS museum and everything's set. We have nothing going on. There's nothing defined in here. We go to museum style CSS. You see it has nothing but an introduction, which is for the browser itself. So that was number 8 and number 9. And now we have number 10 done by split. And then notice the stars on both this, the design, and here, because we created this link and we created this file. So we'll just save everything, and you can see the stars have gone away. If you did not remember to put it in its own file, then, or its own folder, then you can go to files and you can create the CSS and just drag it. Just make sure that you remember to update the links. It will give you that warning and do that. All right, so I am on page 164. And we're going to go, we have the design HTML open, split view is open. We're going to click on the header button in the HTML panel. So let's click on insert. And let's click on, now don't click on heading, click on header. And it brings up a little box. Where do you want to put it? At the insertion point? Do you want to add a class to it? Do you want to add an ID to it? So what we're going to do down here is click a new CSS rule. So we can do that all in one place. Sort of like one-stop shopping. So the first thing it wants us to do is click on top here, and we want to not make a class. we want to make it a tag. So it redefines an HTML element. So remember, we are actually creating a new class as we're putting in a header. So it doesn't really know what you want to do. It just assumes you're going to create it. So now we don't want body. What we want is header. As soon as I can find it, which is somewhere. Okay, where are the H's? There it is, header. And you can put some notes in here if you feel like you really want to do that. So that takes care of number 5. And we're moving to number 6 in here. It wants to, where do we want to put it? We want to put it in the museum style sheet over here. And then once you're done with it, click on OK. So now this is a little bit different than what we did before. This allows you to do something right before you go into the CSS designer. So you don't have to mess with it right now. So we are going to click on the background category. And this is the color swatch. And this allows you to type in the hexadecimal value automatically. So if you type in just 3 F's, it will make it FFF, FFF. And we're going to go over shorthand a little bit later. Now we go to the box category. And here you can put in the width. Now, this is not the way I normally do sites. I will do a wrapper around the entire site and set the width there. That way I don't have to worry about anything going above what I really want it to be. Everything will be contained. So, but we're going to follow what the book does, and as we go along, we'll talk more about wrappers. And wrapper is nothing more than a tag that you call wrapper, and it wraps around your site. You could put different colors. You can put a border on it just to make your site more attractive. Again, we'll talk more about that later on. So we've done number 8. Number 9, the box category, we're going to put in the width of 930. And in the padding area, we're going to type in 10 for everything. So I'm going to explain something now. We have same as all checked here. So if I have a check, whatever I put in top will go into it. So you should be asking a question later on when you see a width put in as 950. And the reason why we need to put 930 here is because the left and the right padding and the left and the right margin get added to the overall content. So if we put in 950, the left and right padding would actually make the box 970. So be very careful about that. In the margin area, we're going to uncheck the same for all. And then we're going to type in 0 and 0 for the bottom. Then we're going to type in auto for the left and the right. I'll explain what that does in a second. Okay, what auto, when you have left and right auto, it centers it for you automatically, just like hitting the center icon for text or something in Microsoft Word. It centers it equally on the left and the right, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay, we're going to click on OK. And then we're going to click it at the insertion point. Let's click on OK again. And boom. Now we have, let's go into the styles. And you can see that it created this for you automatically. And that takes care of that one over here. So number 15 says let you review the page in code there. So take a look at it, make sure you're understanding it. Now in the design pane, we're going to click the editor and we're going to actually do some work on it, and then we're going to do it. Now, there's different ways that you can do it. So I'm going to go into design, and let's see, we'll make sure that we're in design. So let me click on design. And if you click here, notice you have the box. If it isn't, you're going to go to view and visual aids. and then make sure that the box layout model is checked. You can leave all of these checked, and if you like later, do the layout backgrounds. That gives you all different kinds of colors in there and make you easier for you to identify when you have a possible formatting problem. So I have everything checked, so we're in good shape over here. So I'm going to click here. Again, you can click on a header to do the same thing as well. Look on the bottom, you're going to see the margin, element, padding, and content area on the bottom of page 166. So that should help you out there a bit. So in the related files box, we're going to click the museum styles to show that code. We've already done this, which is right here. So you can see that we have some extra things in here. And that takes care of that over here. Now, if you take a look at the one in page 167, it's a little bit different in here because it's got things that are shortcut and added together. So we don't really need to worry about everything. Right now you can see that it has margin all 4 of them in here. But here, this is shortcut right up top over here. So don't worry about that. System knows exactly what it is. So now we're going to drag and drop and create new elements. And I'm going to leave that for the next video so we can make them as short as possible. So hope this was helpful for you and look forward to seeing you again.